Yes, how are we doing here? How does it sound? We doing good? Audio test 1, 2, 3, according to Mandy? Okay, let me know. Also checking the cordless. So this is one of the cordless.
You're on.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today. We appreciate those who are in attendance here and those online or on TV. We appreciate you caring for the city of Las Cruces and the Las Cruces Police Department. We're going to be talking today about the incident that occurred on the East Mesa on June 21st. We're going to try to limit the questions as much as possible to that incident. Now, you have to keep in mind the incident is still ongoing. The investigation is still ongoing. And so I'm sure the chief and the lieutenant who will be speaking today will not be able to answer all of your questions, but they're going to try to get through to as many as they can. And speaking today will be Lieutenant Peter Bradley, who's in charge of the criminal investigation section. But first, I'd like to introduce Interim Chief of Police, Jeremy Story.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon to everybody that's here. Thank you for taking your time to be here. Today, we're going to provide an update on the officer-involved shooting that occurred on June 21st, 2023. The following information that we're going to present, the audio, the visual, the photographs, in this presentation are intended to provide details based on the information as we currently understand it. We will be taking questions afterwards. However, again, we're trying to present all the facts that we have at this time, and we don't want to provide speculation or anything that we may have to later change. This incident is currently being investigated by the Officer-Involved Incident Task Force, which is comprised of investigators from the 3rd Judicial District Attorney's Office, the New Mexico State Police, the Doña Ana County Sheriff's Office, the Las Cruces Police Department, and the New Mexico State University Police Department. And the following may contain graphic images, which may be disturbing to some people. The way we did this presentation is try to do it in chronological order so that it flows and hopefully makes the most sense. We will have to kind of go back and forth to clarify just because everything happened in a very short period of time, the actual officer-involved shooting. And so we'll try to clarify those things, but again, we'll take questions, and if we can further clarify, we will. We'll start with the call for service. The call for service started or came into the Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority, which is our dispatchers for LCPD, at about 11 o'clock a.m. on the 21st. That call is received from the New Mexico State Police. They're asking for assistance in stopping a vehicle with a wanted subject. I'm going to play some audio from the radio traffic of our dispatchers talking to our officers, providing this information. Most of what they are going to say is kind of in the bullet points below. The audio is spliced for brevity so that we can get through kind of the substance of it, but I'll try to clarify at the end. And again, if you have questions related to the radio traffic, you can ask at the end.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Show 782 for an agency assist.
782.
5995 Baton West, 5995 Baton Memorial West. State Police is currently following a white and colored Tahoe northbound on Porter Brick. They have 3 state police units, all unmarked, advising they are following the subject with a nationwide extraditable 40. 1048 is known to be armed and dangerous, requesting assistance.
782. Do you know what the...
850.
Take me off this and have me to 782 for 837 Central.
837.
10 and over 4 GOA. Put me on 782 square.
And it's for the agency assist. Mel comes back positive for contributing to the delinquency of a minor break, failure to appear in possession of a weapon, another one for contributing to the delinquency of a minor break, probation violation for ag assault, violation of a court order. They're all going to be extraditable.
782, direct update 20 Central 9718.
Units around to the agency assist. State Police is backing off of the vehicle. They have code 11.
Advise me, desert side by Clearwater. Desert side by Clearwater. We're still getting pointed.
All the warrants that you heard for Mr. Crawford were felony warrants, including aggravated assault, which is a violent felony, and felon in possession of a firearm. The most important part of that audio is towards the end when you hear them say that State Police is backing off because they have code 11s. Code 11s means that there was gunshots or possible gunshots occurring. At about 11:06, Las Cruces Police Department officers located both the state police officers and the suspect vehicle near the intersection of Peachtree Hills and Porter. What you're going to see to the right of the screen is the location data for the body-worn camera from the officer who first initiated the pursuit for LCPD all the way to the end of the pursuit. So that maps the actual location from start to finish of LCPD's involvement in the pursuit. Again, it started on Peachtree Hills, just east of Porter, and then it ends in the 7,000 block of Arroyo, which is just east of Holman. The pursuit ended with a pursuit intervention technique at approximately 11:19. An LCPD sergeant used that technique. The vehicles came to a stop, and within about 5 seconds of the vehicles stopping, gunshots were fired into the LCPD sergeant's unit. Mr. Crawford fired 2 shots through his front driver's side window. Now, when we see the video and some additional pictures, the positions of the vehicles will be a lot more apparent, but essentially the vehicles stopped from the pit right next to each other facing opposite directions. So as he fires into the passenger window of the LCPD units, or sergeant's unit, these 2 rounds, they're going straight through and exiting both the rear driver's side window, breaking that, and then out the corner here of the front driver's side window. When it says narrowly missing him, we're talking about inches from the sergeant's head, both rounds exiting and passing by him. The sergeant became tangled in his seatbelt, but he was able to free himself, get out of the unit, move to cover, and return fire. What you're about to see is a body camera footage from that sergeant who initiated the pit maneuver. It starts right as they're coming back onto the pavement from the desert on Arroyo, and right before the pit is done.
We're about 20 seconds away from you. We're on the hard ball. That's in a pit. Shots fired!
It happens very quickly. I'm going to show you a series of stills from his body-worn camera just to kind of illustrate the glass flying. So this is a frame right before the first shot is fired. There's no glass fragments. As the shots are fired, you see the glass fragments start to fly through the air. And next one is after both rounds have been fired and he's trying to exit the vehicle and kind of hung up on the seatbelt. Again, we can go back to those photos if we need to during questions. The next vehicle involved is going to be this vehicle right here. The one I just showed you is coming from this vehicle, fired across through this window and out this side of the vehicle. The next officer involved is from this vehicle. He arrives at the same time the pursuit is ending. He sees Mr. Crawford firing at the LCPD sergeant and immediately returns fire initially from his vehicle, then exits and continues to return fire. This is the body camera footage from the vehicle that was just circled. The third vehicle involved is the second LCPD sergeant. He's the vehicle, as soon as the pit is done, he comes from the front, bumper to block the vehicle from going mobile again. This picture was taken as part of the processing, so at the time of the shooting, the vehicles were essentially touching or near touching. After Mr. Crawford fires those 2 rounds at the first LCPD sergeant through that front driver's side window, he immediately turns and fires a round through the front windshield of this car. The next slide is this picture blown up, so I'll talk more about it. The sergeant returns fire from inside his vehicle. He has a malfunction with his weapon. He's able to get outside of the vehicle, move to a position of cover, and then continue to return fire. This is blown up a little bit. If you look, the white Tahoe, the suspect vehicle, sits higher than the police Tahoe. That's at a slightly downward angle. It's essentially in line with the headrest or at head level of the LCPD sergeant, which again, we're talking within inches of striking the sergeant. This is the body camera footage from that second LCPD sergeant.
Shots fired! Back me up!
The last slide I'm going to do is going to have a picture of kind of the overall scene so I can just reinforce where everybody was in those 3 videos. After the initial exchange of gunfire, Mr. Crawford barricaded the vehicle for approximately 30 minutes before surrendering to law enforcement. Once he was taken into custody, he received immediate medical care from first LCPD and then emergency medical personnel. He was eventually flown to University Medical Center in El Paso, Texas. When he was released from the hospital in El Paso, he was taken into custody by Texas law enforcement, and he's currently waiting extradition back to New Mexico. He was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault upon a peace officer, and 1 count each of aggravated fleeing, shooting at or from a motor vehicle, and felon in possession of a firearm. On the right of this slide, you see 2 photos. One is a photo of a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 .45 caliber handgun that was located in the vehicle. The second is just a close-up of that vehicle, or I'm sorry, that weapon. There's also several shell casings, .45 caliber, located both inside the vehicle and in the area immediately around the vehicle. This right here shows kind of the overall scene. So I'll kind of recap the 3 videos we saw. The pit maneuver was done by this vehicle right here. It came to stop side by side. The first shots go through the side window and exit on this side of the vehicle. The second video you see is going to be this unit right here that fires through the windshield initially with the rifle and is able to get out. And the third vehicle and video is this unit right here that was directly in front of the suspect vehicle, and the round was fired through the windshield of that vehicle towards the officer. At this time, I want to introduce Lieutenant Peter Bradley, the lieutenant of our criminal investigation section, who's going to help answer any questions that we can. Again, our goal is to provide every fact that we possibly can. However, we're not going to speculate or provide anything that we don't know to be fact, or even educated guesses that might be wrong in the future. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, if we have any questions, please let me know so we can put them on, put you on the mic. Let me squeeze by over here.
Hi, I'm Justin Garcia from the Sun News. Can you explain, did I hear correctly that 3 New Mexico State police officers were following in unmarked vehicles initially?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Can you kind of give us a little more context about why that was?
So I would refer any specific questions as to what tactics they were using or what they were operating under to New Mexico State Police. But what I can tell you is those New Mexico State police officers that were following it are part of the Fugitive Apprehension Unit, and they were following this individual because they knew him to have multiple felony warrants.
And can you tell me how many shots were fired?
At this time, we can't. We're still in the process of determining that.
Can you tell me how many times Mr. Crawford was shot?
Mr. Crawford was hit 3 times, 2 of which were to the upper torso. The third was a graze to the upper torso as well.
We can come back to you.
Were any of the officers injured during this encounter?
So we did have one of the sergeants who received minor lacerations from the glass to his person.
Hi, Karine Sanchez with KFOX 14 and CBS 4. I was wondering, I know that you were following the suspect due to warrants, but do we know specifically when that pursuit happened and why? Was it a traffic stop? What happened there?
So again, I would refer most of it back to New Mexico State Police. As far as the initial incident from there, I can tell you that they are in unmarked vehicles, which, although not marked, police have lights, sirens, and all of the ability to stop a vehicle. I couldn't tell you exactly what they had done prior to it before asking for our assistance.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lilo Basitsiro with KVIA. My question is kind of twofold, I guess. The first part, from watching the dash cam video or the lapel video, it seemed like officers began receiving fire pretty much right away when they approached the suspect. Do you feel that the police response was justified? The number of shots that were fired were justified considering the situation? And then the second part of my question is, when you look at where the pursuit came to rest in reference to people's homes, it was pretty close. Were there any other people other than just what we see that were impacted by any of the fire any of the shots that were fired?
So as far as whether or not the incident was justified, that's what the investigation's for. We will continue to investigate. This is only the preliminary information of what we have. But you are very right. The officers came under immediate deadly force against their persons within 5 seconds of stopping the vehicle. And they reacted in a way similar to how they would be trained. As far as the nearby residences, we canvassed the area. We were unable to find any other residence, building, or anything else that was struck by gunfire.
Thank you.
Diana Villanueva from Telemundo. What's the condition of the officers?
So all of the officers are still on administrative leave. That is a standard procedure, but they are all okay.
Thought I was done, not quite.
No worries.
I'm kind of impressed, to be honest, that the Las Cruces Police Department is coming forward with this kind of information. The videos that you're showing us this close to an investigation, usually it's quite a bit of a battle. What motivated this? What's your reason for disclosing this much information at this juncture in your investigation?
So I would actually defer that to Interim Chief Story.
I think collectively, even with previous administrations, we recognize the need to release information probably sooner than we have. So this information, as soon as we know what the facts are, we want to provide the information. The balance is always to not compromise the investigation. And so we're trying to find a better way to do that. And I think this is showing that effort.
I have another question. On the affidavit says that possession of a firearm by a felon. Can you give a little bit more background on that?
Yes, of course. So Mr. Crawford was a felon. Because of that, he is prohibited in the state of New Mexico and by the federal government of possessing a firearm or deadly weapon. He clearly is seen in the images. We'll go. This was the firearm that was in his immediate possession. This is the firearm that was discharged at our officers. And as he is a felon, he is a prohibited user.
Anybody else? Other questions? No?
Will all this be available to us after the fact? Are we going to be able to access this video?
Yes, so this video is going to be on YouTube. You'll be able to get all that. Plus, I have a thumb drive right now with this presentation on it. So anybody who has a computer who wants to download it right now can do so. You have another question?
Why isn't Mr. Crawford in the Doñana County Detention Center right now?
So because he was shot and received that kind of trauma, he was transported to El Paso for advanced medical care. Because of that, we can't just bring somebody back to New Mexico. He has to be extradited as part of the law. So he is pending extradition back to New Mexico for his crimes.
Is he currently in a jail in El Paso?
Yes.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. If you would, please identify yourself.
Gilbert Vasquez, just a citizen. Why is it taking so long to know how many shots the police fired? I mean, and what is your protocol after firing the weapons of police officers? I mean, you put them on administrative leave. Wouldn't you have the weapons and have that count like readily available?
So it's actually a very good question, sir. And I would understand exactly, not knowing the exact procedure, where you would come to that. Yes, we do have their weapons available, and we do have, we did round counts and things like that to find out how much ammunition they had on their person. But as I'm sure you noticed and was also put out in the presentation, there were several weapon malfunctions. So what that means is that there are potential that bullets were removed from that magazine, cycled through the weapon that were never actually fired. So we can't just say the magazine holds X amount and Y amount is what's missing, so that's what they shot. It's going to involve processing, work with New Mexico State Police and the Officer Involved Incident Task Force to find out exactly how many spent casings we have. And because most LCPD officers use the same caliber, we need to figure out where they came from as well.
Anybody else have anything? You have one more? Hold on.
I think you initially referenced that the New Mexico State Police was in pursuit of him, but then they broke off the pursuit. And then the video shows Las Cruces police officers ending that pursuit. Is there a reason why New Mexico State Police wasn't there when the pursuit ended?
So I think that may just be a confusion of terms. New Mexico State Police backed off of the pursuit, but they never broke off. They stayed in the pursuit the entire time. Due to the dynamics of the situation and what exactly happened, when the vehicle went through the desert, it happened to be that marked LCPD officers were closer to that vehicle to continue that pursuit. But New Mexico State Police was involved the entire time.
Okay, one more from KVIA.
I guess because this pursuit did end in a kind of a residential area, I'm wondering what Las Cruces PD's policy is for pursuits in residential areas.
So we do have a very lengthy policy. It's available through our transparency page, I believe. But basically, the take-home from that policy, without going into all of the pages and pages, the take-home is it's a continual wait as to whether or not the risk of allowing this suspect to escape outweighs the danger in which you're putting the community in by pursuing him, if that makes sense.
You guys good? You guys, thank you so much. Hold on, sorry. Is that news?
Can you just describe the process for when you decide something is a critical incident and when it gets a press conference and press releases versus when it is not considered a critical incident, even if use of force was involved?
So as far as my standpoint here with where I am, I'm here as both the Lieutenant for Criminal Investigations, but also as the head of the Las Cruces Police Department, part of the Officer Involved Incident Task Force. This is, as Interim Chief Story said, something we want to start pushing through for these major incidences, which would be things like officer-involved shootings, where the task force is coming out.
And as far as when the officer-involved incident task force is called out, it's really any incident that results in the death of a person in our custody. So generally, there are officer-involved shootings, but they could also be vehicle-related. It could be an in-custody death or anything related. That the majority of them tend to be officer-involved shootings.
Use of a service animal qualify for that?
If it resulted in great bodily harm or death, but otherwise, no.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. One other thing I'd like to mention, and I'm pretty sure the task force would appreciate it, but anybody who may have witnessed any part of this and has not contacted Las Cruces Police, please do so. Call police. You can call 575-526-0795 and ask to speak to a detective. Somebody from the task force will probably reach out to them. But other than that, we appreciate Chief and the Lieutenant for coming here. Thank you all. Everything is going to be on YouTube, this whole video, and anybody who wants a copy of this presentation can get with me right after this. Thank you.